Johnny Talk Sports in with the Week 4 NFL predictions. Last week I went a really impressive 13-3, which puts me at 31-17 throughout the first 3 weeks of the year so far, which is 64%. And I am really happy with that considering I had a bad week 1 and the last 2 weeks I have really bounced back. Let's hope I can make it a third consecutive week. Without further ado, let's get to the Week 4 NFL predictions. As always, we begin with Thursday Night Football, and this week, Thursday Night Football features the Jaguars and the Bengals. And to tell you the truth, I don't really think this matchup is going to really be entertaining at all. I feel like the only reason why that they would even hype up a matchup like this is because it's a battle of the most recent first overall picks. Trevor Lawrence for the Jaguars and Joe Burrow for the Bengals. Other than that, I just don't really see any other reason to watch this game. The Jaguars haven't done anything this season to impress me in a way. While the Bengals, they have impressed me quite a bit. They are coming off of an upset win against the Steelers. And I think that a win like that, I think it's a confidence booster for a team like the Bengals. Considering Zach Taylor could have been potentially on the hot seat if the Bengals got off to a slow start. And the Bengals, they find themselves 2-1. And I'm going to pick the Bengals to win this game to move on to 3-1. T. Higgins' status is in question right now, but I don't really know if it matters. I feel like Joe Mixon is going to have a great night against this Jaguars defense. I also think that Joe Burrow has the potential to put up quite a bit of yards on this Jaguars secondary, as the Jaguars have not been the same since that run to the AFC Championship game. So I'm picking the Bengals. Next, we have the Washington football team and the Falcons. And the Falcons got their first win of the year last week against the Giants, while the Washington football team got absolutely demolished by the Bills. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick still on IR, Taylor Heineke has done pretty well in these last 2 weeks. I feel like he hasn't really done that bad at all. I mean, he's not been dominant, but he's had some pretty solid performances, especially in week 2. While the Falcons, their win was just against the Giants, and I don't really know if I can even still take the Falcons seriously at this point, even though they showed they can pick up a win. We're still waiting for the Washington defense to really show up this season. I think this could be the week that it shows up, especially with the weak Falcons offensive line. I think this is going to be that week where we see Washington's defense really rise to the occasion, and I'm going to pick Washington to win this game. Next, we have the Texans and the Bills. I don't really know if there's much to explain here. I will admit, though, last week on Thursday Night Football, Davis Mills did a lot better than what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to throw at least 2 or 3 interceptions last week, but he did not. So he played better than I thought. While the Bills, they have looked really confident these last 2 weeks. I think that this Bills offense is right back to where it wants to be. And I think the Bills, they continue to roll, and I think they win big this week. So I'm picking Buffalo. Next, we have the Lions and the Bears. And I feel bad for Lions fans. I feel bad for the Lions in general. They should have won that game against the Ravens last week. That was delay a game on that play before the 66-yard field goal attempt. While the Bears, well, Matt Nagy has no idea who to start at quarterback, and he has no idea who's going to start. It could be Justin Fields. It could be Andy Dalton. It could even be Nick Foles. With the Bears having no idea who to start at quarterback, and the Lions going to play with a chip on their shoulder, knowing they should have won last week, this is a recipe for the Lions to pick up their first win of the year and I think they get it done here. I just like the fight that I've seen in the Lions throughout these first 3 weeks of the season. Their worst half of the year, in my opinion, was the second half against the Packers. If the Lions can just play the way that they did in the first half against the Packers, they can win quite a bit of games. And I think this could be the start of a potential confidence booster for the Lions moving forward, because the Lions, I think, they've got the right guy in Dan Campbell. I was a bit skeptical about him at first, but then when he talked in his press conferences, I think that he's going to be that guy that instills discipline into this Lions team, which is something that they need. The Lions pick up their first win of the year. You've heard it here first. Next, we have the Panthers and the Cowboys. The Panthers are one of the last 5 remaining undefeated teams in the NFL. Is this something that we can really be impressed by? Part of me says no, but part of me says yes. The main reason why I'm saying yes is because one of those 3 wins was against the Saints. And I'm saying no because their other 2 opponents have been the Jets and the Texans, 2 of the worst 4 teams in the league. While the Cowboys, they are starting to at least pick up some confidence, in my opinion, coming off of a dominant win against the Eagles on Monday Night Football in Dak's return to AT&T Stadium. And I think this might be a bit of a reality check for the Panthers. I think the Cowboys pick up this victory because we know that the Cowboys, they typically play a lot better at home. Amari Cooper tends to get a touchdown at home, even though he did in the Monday Night Football. But still, the Cowboys, they look like a much better team at home than what they do on the road. So I think the Cowboys, they make it 3 in a row. Next, we have the Colts and the Dolphins. The Colts are looking to pick up their first win of the year as they are 0-3, while the Dolphins, this is their second of the minimum 3 games with Jacoby Brissett at starting quarterback, as Tua Tagovailoa was placed on IR last week. Now, the Colts may be 0-3, but they have went up against really strong offenses in these first 3 games. They went up against Seattle's offense, they went up against the Rams offense, and last week they went up against the Titans offense. A Titans offense that has gotten a lot of hype throughout the offseason when they acquired Julio Jones. So the Colts, it's more of they've just faced off against top tier offenses. While with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback for the Dolphins, this is going to be the least powerful offense the Colts have faced so far this season. And the status of Quentin Nelson is unknown. How healthy is Carson Wentz really? Because he had an injury to both of his ankles against the Rams in week 2. So it depends on the health of Carson Wentz. Can Jonathan Taylor get going in that Colts running game? He hasn't done well these last 2 weeks. I'm going to pick the Colts to win this game and pick up their first win of the year. Maybe this might be that confidence boost that Carson Wentz needs to proceed through the rest of the season. But I'm picking Indianapolis to win. Next, we have the Browns and the Vikings. The Browns are coming off of a dominant performance defensively against the Bears. Kareem Hunt also stepped up for the Browns in their running game. The Vikings picked up their first win of the year last week against Seattle. I'm going to say this, though, about the Vikings. If the Vikings, if they can find themselves in the playoffs, they can find themselves ending with, I don't know, maybe a 12-5 record, or if they can make the playoffs, I think Kirk Cousins could be a dark horse candidate for MVP. He is playing clean football so far. He is yet to throw an interception. And I think the Vikings, with their win last week, I think this is a confidence booster for them. Dalvin Cook's status is still in question, but if I had to guess, he probably will play. But even if he is unable to play, I have confidence in Alexander Mattison. I mean, Alexander Mattison He really moved the ball really well against that Seahawks defense last week. I'm going to pick the Vikings to go back to back. Next, we have the Giants and the Saints. The Giants, an 0-3 start to the year in what was a prove-it year for Daniel Jones coming into the season, but I will give Daniel Jones the benefit of the doubt here against Washington. The Giants should have beaten Washington. Darius Slayton really blew that game by dropping a wide-open touchdown pass, while the Saints, they picked up a win against the Patriots last week, bouncing back from their loss against Carolina in week 2. I actually think that Joe Judge, he might be on the hot seat if the Giants, if they start this year off 0-4, maybe Joe Judge his seat might be getting warm. Maybe not necessarily in the hot seat, but it's close to getting there. And I am going to pick the Saints. I just think their win last week against the Patriots, I think that's a confidence booster moving forward to keep up within that division. And I'm going to pick New Orleans to win this matchup. I just don't know what to think of the Giants at this point. We've seen the Giants struggle on offense throughout 2 of their first 3 games of the year. So I'm going to pick the Saints because the Saints have got one of the best defenses in the league, in my opinion. But despite the inconsistencies, it's still one of the best in the league. I'd say maybe top 5 defense in the entire NFL. So I'm going with the Saints. Next, we have the Titans and the Jets, and there honestly isn't much to talk about in this matchup because it is the Jets, and I already said I would probably never pick the Jets until they start proving they're capable of winning games. And the Titans, they have had 2 wins in a row, and I think they make it 3 in a row here easily. They beat Seattle in overtime in a big comeback win, and they beat AFC South rival Indianapolis last week. And the Titans, they make it 3 in a row. Again, not much to talk about this matchup. The Jets, they need to just prove they can actually win games first before I can even pick them. And I think from now on, I'm probably just going to skip the Jets picks throughout the rest of the year until they prove they're capable of winning a game. I'm going with Tennessee. Next, we have the Chiefs and the Eagles. The Chiefs are 1-2. They've lost 2 games in a row, but they went up against the Ravens and the Chargers, who, despite the Ravens not having a good performance at all and squeaking out against Detroit last week, the Ravens are still one of the best teams in the AFC. And I don't think it matters that much the Chiefs are off to a slow start. There's no time to panic yet in Kansas City. I mean, if they lose this game, maybe you can consider that. Considering the Eagles, since week 1, I mean, I get their defense is underrated, and you don't know which Eagles defense is going to show up to the game. Is it going to be the Eagles defense that can look like one of the best in the league, or is it going to be where they look like the absolute worst defense in NFL history? You really don't know what Eagles defense you're going to get. And with the speed of Tyreek Hill, I think he has a bounce back week after being pretty quiet within the Chiefs offense these last 2 weeks. I think the speed of Tyreek Hill is a difference in this game. Plus, Nick Sirianni, I think, should be on the hot seat if you ask me, considering that you have a really great running back in Miles Sanders, and you only gave him 2 carries, which honestly, I believe he only had 5 touches, maybe even 4 touches against the Cowboys last week. And I've seen Eagles fans get really frustrated with Nick Sirianni not utilizing Miles Sanders the way that he needs to be utilized. If Miles Sanders can't get utilized in this Eagles offense, either A, Miles Sanders is going to request a trade, or B, Nick Sirianni is going to be fired. It's going to be a one and done for Nick Sirianni in Philly. So I'm picking the Chiefs to win easily. Next, we have what is the game of the week, a battle of unbeatens in the NFC West, the most stacked division, the most competitive division in the NFL, the Cardinals and the Rams. And I do not understand why this isn't the game of the week. Why isn't this game going to be on that 4:25 Eastern Time game on CBS with Nance and Romo? Let alone, why isn't this the Monday Night Football game? Because I understand why you would make this the Sunday Night Football game, because, they've got to make Brady's return to Foxborough a nationally televised game, a primetime game. But still, why couldn't they just put this on Monday Night Football? Either way, I am looking forward to watching this matchup. You've got potentially the top two candidates for MVP right now. Matthew Stafford has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league so far with this Rams offense, and I kind of knew this was going to happen. Matthew Stafford, he was underappreciated in Detroit, and now that he's on a competitive team, we see him reach his full potential. While the Cardinals, they're off to a really strong start to the year. And I honestly don't know who to pick in this one. But I am going to pick the Rams because I think they're pretty confident coming into this game, coming off a win against Tom Brady and the Bucs. I like the Rams to go to 4-0. Although this game can go either way, I think the NFC West is that good. I mean, I hope that this goes into overtime. I hope we see a shootout in this game, which I'm thinking that's what it's going to be. I'm going to say the Rams win 45-42. I mean, whatever the over-under is, you better take the over in this game. Next, we have the Seahawks and the 49ers. The Seahawks coming off of 2 consecutive losses, and the 49ers coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Packers on Sunday Night Football. There are some question marks still in the 49ers running game. We did see Trey Sermon get more involved in this 49ers running game, but Elijah Mitchell, he may come back this week. Although he is questionable at this point, but if Elijah Mitchell plays, I would anticipate that he would be RB1. And for Seattle, they have got to find some answers on defense. And the second half against Tennessee and last week against Minnesota just hasn't been productive at all by any means. And I think the Seahawks, I think they lose 3 in a row. I think the 49ers, I think they bounce back from last week, which isn't going to define Seattle's season necessarily. The NFC West is just so competitive. I mean, any NFC West matchup can go either way. Because in any other division, all 4 of these teams could be division leaders. But I'm going to go with San Francisco to win this one. Next, we have the Ravens and the Broncos. The Broncos are one of the last 5 remaining undefeated teams in the National Football League, as they are 3-0. But is it something that we could be impressed with? And to me, I think no. I am still not sold on the Broncos. They may be 3-0, which you got to give them credit for, but they played the Giants, Jaguars, and Jets, who are a combined 0-9. So I'm still not sold on the Denver Broncos at this point. While the Ravens, coming off of a game where they should have lost, but they squeaked out the win by a Justin Tucker 66-yard field goal. I am going to pick the Ravens, and I think the Broncos, I think they're going to get a bit of a reality check. I think they got to get humbled a little bit, and I'm going to pick the Ravens. I know the Ravens offense looked anemic last week, but I think the Ravens will do just enough in this game to pick up the win. If the Broncos, if they play Baltimore close, then maybe I can be sold on them, even if they do lose this game. But this game right here, this would be the game that dictates for me whether or not I can be sold on this Broncos team moving forward. Next, we have the Steelers and the Packers. Aaron Rodgers does not typically do well against top-tier defenses, while the Steelers, they are coming off of two anemic performances offensively. It's possible Deontay Johnson will come back this week, so that's really going to help out the Steelers' offense, I believe. And Juju Smith-Schuster is questionable, so the Steelers are quite a bit banged up as far as the receiving core is concerned. Well, I think with this game being in Lambeau, despite Aaron Rodgers not playing at his best against top-tier defenses, I think the last 2 weeks have been a confidence booster for the Packers. After losing 38-3 in week 1, the Packers, they have really bounced back, even though they struggled in that first half against Detroit. I think they've bounced back pretty well. I would not be surprised necessarily if the Steelers won this game. But I just think that with TJ Watt also banged up, I'm not really sure what his status is for this week 4 matchup. But I'm going to pick Green Bay to win this game. I think that the Steelers defense, I think they do keep the Steelers in this game. But offensively, there's still some question marks to the Steelers, especially the offensive line. Next, we have Sunday Night Football, the Bucs and the Patriots. Tom Brady's return to Foxborough. And this is a perfect setup for Tom Brady to not only win his return home, but to also pass Drew Brees for the all-time record of most passing yards. It's like it's just set up perfectly. You would almost think the NFL's rigged. It's that perfectly scripted. And plus, the Buccaneers are coming off of a loss. So, do you really think Tom Brady is going to lose back-to-back games? Obviously not. The Buccaneers, they're going to win big, especially with the Patriots, with rookie quarterback Mac Jones. Even though the Buccaneers, they've been giving up quite a bit of yards throughout their first 3 games of the year. I still think that the offenses they've played, the ceiling is at least high for all 3 of them, and I'm talking all 3 of them because the Falcons' offense just looked completely anemic throughout the entire season, and the wins for them are coming soon, I think. As much as I think the Falcons are one of the worst teams in the league at this point, they're probably at least going to end up with about 6 wins maybe. And they've gone up against some pretty solid offenses, the Buccaneers have. And this is going to be the worst offense they faced so far. And I think the Bucs, they win easy. I think this is going to be a game where the Bucs defense gets confident moving forward and they pick up the win. And week 4 wraps up with Monday Night Football. This week, Monday Night Football features the Raiders and the Chargers. A battle of AFC West teams where both of them should be 3-0 coming into this matchup. But the Chargers, they had a lot of mistakes against the Cowboys in week 2. I mean, if the Chargers can just clean up their mistakes and they can finish games, the ceiling is high for the Chargers moving forward. While the Raiders, they are a team that I'm a bit surprised has started off 3-0. But the Raiders, they have proved me wrong throughout the first 3 weeks of the year. Although I did anticipate them beating the Dolphins last week without Tua. But they have beaten 2 playoff caliber teams in the Ravens and the Steelers, but so have the Chargers. They have beaten the Washington football team who made the playoffs last year, and they took down the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. And I think the Chargers defense, still, I've said this a couple times, but I'll say it again. The Chargers defense is underrated. We saw them dominate the game early on against the Chiefs. We saw them force turnovers on that Chiefs offense. And we saw them make the Chiefs play from behind. And a gutsy call by Brandon Staley to go for it on fourth down. Instead of trying to kick a field goal to win the game, they decided to go for the touchdown late in the game, and it paid off. And I think the Raiders, I mean, you do got to give them credit for being 3-0 at this point in the year, but I just think the Chargers, I think last week against the Chiefs, the fact that Justin Herbert was able to pull off that upset, I think his confidence is through the roof right now. And I'm going to pick the Chargers. And that will do it for my Week 4 NFL predictions. For review, I have the Bengals. I have the Wash football team, the Bills, Lions, Cowboys, Colts, Vikings, Saints, Titans, Chiefs, Rams, 49ers, Ravens, Packers, Buccaneers, and Chargers winning this week. Like, share, and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time. Have a good day.